What is a predictive survey? Well, before I get into that, let me at least introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Huber. I'm CWNE number 51, and I have over 17 years of industry experience in enterprise Wi-Fi. So what is a predictive survey? Well, a predictive survey is not a wild guess or a mysterious process. It only seems that way at first. In the same way that water ripples outward when a rock is dropped in a pond, wireless signals spread outward from an access point's antennas. In this image, you can see how the walls of the building block, reflect, and absorb the wireless signals from the access point in the upper right-hand corner. This blocking, reflecting, or absorbing can be described simply as RF loss. RF stands for radio frequency. RF loss is measured in dB decibels, but I digress. That's too much information for what I'm getting at today. In this image, you can see the variation in RF loss as the access point moves from one side of the room to the other. The single most important thing needed to do a predictive survey is the floor plan. There are many different image types supported by Ekahau, and having a CAD file, a DWG file, with defined layers and building scale embedded in it will make the predictive survey process go much quicker for the wireless engineer. I will demonstrate the difference in the speed and efficiency of the predictive process when an engineer has a CAD file versus any other image file from a floor plan. When a wireless engineer launches Ekahau Site Survey tool to do any kind of site survey, the first thing that they are prompted to do is to add a map. If the survey engineer has been lucky enough to get an AutoCAD file, Ekahau has the capability to recognize the different layers in an AutoCAD file and prompt the user of the application to define the RF obstacle value for those given layers of the AutoCAD file. As you can see off to the left, all of the different layer names are shown for this floor plan drawing, and as such, the engineer can choose from the drop-down for the layer that's titled door and assign that to a dB loss value for a solid wood door. The same thing can be done for the walls, and this is a 6 times sped up iteration of the steps that you would go through to assign different dB loss values to the different floor layers as part of the AutoCAD. Any layers that you don't want to be shown in the background map, you simply uncheck and then import the AutoCAD file. And as you can see here, those values that the engineer assigned to those layers of the AutoCAD file are shown on the floor plan with the blue and brown lines indicating the different RF obstacles of the walls and doors. Those values can be changed after the fact, but for simplicity's sake, it's ideal to have an AutoCAD file to pull into Ekahau. From there, we take a software simulated access point. In this example, it's a Cisco 4800 series access point, and you place an access point on the floor plan. The heat map values that will be displayed are dependent upon the RF obstacles that were imported from the CAD file. Access point's power values for each radio can be adjusted, which will also affect the coverage area for each access point. In this example, you can see how the software simulated access point's coverage changes depending upon where the access point is being placed on the floor plan. If the wireless engineer is unable to obtain an AutoCAD file, they may be presented with any number of other image files like a PDF, a GIF, a TIFF, a JPEG, and as you can see from this example, Ekahau supports GIF, PNG, JPEG, BMP, and PDF. You could import a PDF of the floor plan image if that's all you've got access to. This example of a PDF file is not a good example, as you can see, because there's a lot of white space around the actual floor plan itself. Adobe Acrobat Pro should be used to export an image file from that so that we can trim the edges off. In this example, I'm going to use a PNG file and load that into Ekahau and show you the difference between importing an AutoCAD and importing a flat image file. So our image file is imported. There is no scale that's present. There was a scale present in the AutoCAD file, so we didn't have to set the scale. So we zoom into a known distance. So for this example, we're going to use a doorway, and we're going to set the doorway to be 3 feet wide. And this is how we're setting the scale of this image file. It would be ideal to have a known distance in the file, but we don't have that luxury because this is all we've got, so we have to work with what we've got. Now the wireless engineer will begin to define RF obstacles manually by using the tools as shown to define elevator shafts, air ventilation ducts, and define all of the RF obstacles that are visually identifiable in this floor plan based upon the engineer's best knowledge. The process is manual when compared to the AutoCAD file, and as you can see here in this example, the engineer is clicking the length of the wall and clicking for a doorway so that the multiple select feature of Ekahau can be utilized to change those doors to a given RF loss value all at one time. This process is very tedious. Every wall that you see drawn on the floor plan in this image will need to be drawn manually by the wireless engineer doing the predictive survey. Now the engineer is going back and selecting all of those doorways that were drawn, those doors that were drawn as closed, and changing the wall type from a dry wall of a 3 dB loss to a interior door which has a 4 dB loss. And these values are important to set as accurately as possible so that the data that you get out of the predictive survey can be as accurate as possible. The rest of the process is rinse and repeat. As you can see, this is sped up 6 times, but the entire process is extremely manual. Everything needs to be drawn with a high level of accuracy in order to get the best data out of a predictive survey. Because as they say, it's garbage in, garbage out. This is a pretty simple floor plan, and even drawing all of these walls and obstacles took 6 minutes for a small environment like this. So the larger the environment, the more walls that need to be drawn. And again, the access point is placed, and you can see how the coverage changes as you move the access point around the simulated RF obstacles. To recap, if the engineer has a CAD file, it will often have the scale ratio embedded in the drawing as well as separate layers for doors, walls, windows, and stairwells. If the engineer has a standard image file for a floor plan, they'll have to draw in all the walls, doors, windows, stairwells, elevators, and everything else that will cause RF loss. How accurate can a predictive survey be? Well, without taking any on-site RF measurements, a predictive survey can be at best 75 to 80% accurate. This means that doing another site survey after the wireless access points are deployed is necessary to ensure the installed wireless coverage matches the predicted coverage. On-site spot checks can be used to ensure the RF loss values for walls, floors, and doors are entered accurately into the Ekahau software. Testing on-site allows the engineer to enter the measured dB loss in the actual environment rather than using the default values in the Ekahau tool. An AP on a stick is configured to a known power output and placed on one side of a wall. The on-site engineer uses the Ekahau software on the other side of the wall or door to measure the signal detected after the signal has been reduced by the wall, thus figuring out what the RF loss value is. The loss value is then entered into the wall properties drawn in the Ekahau tool for more accurate predictive results. Predictive surveys take time. It isn't an easy button where AP placements are spit out automatically. They're quicker with CAD files and not so much with regular image files. This has been a public service announcement, and I hope you've learned something from watching this video. Disclaimer, this video is not intended to be an all-encompassing explanation of all the phases of a predictive survey. This content is solely my opinion. Do not attempt to form a predictive survey without having attended an Ekahau training class, preferably the Ekahau ECSE design course. Any and all images used retain the copyright of original creators. The fair use for copyrighted work, including such use by reproduction copies or phono records or by any other means specified by that section for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarship, or research is not an infringement of copyright.